The PGA Tour has approved its future, yet its loudest warning hangs over the plan. Brian Rolapp moved forward. Rory McIlroy challenged track 2. Fans questioned the cost. That exchange created the bombshell. McIlroy never filed a demand, but his message was blunt. The Canadian Open cannot become a glorified Corn Ferry event. Rolapp answered by defending the Challenger Series, saying, "The tour cannot satisfy every stakeholder." That sounded like he refuses to protect tradition, because Rory asked. Then social media turned one disagreement into a revolt. Posts claimed 49 players were furious, although no verified list, meeting, or vote proves that number. The suspicion found oxygen because Nick Taylor had warned that Canadians could lose access to their National Open. Scottie Scheffler backed the broader model, which made the split harder to dismiss. Rory once carried this tour through its LIV fight. Now the champion is questioning what that fight created. Rolapp calls it a clearer system. Rory sees historic events standing near a line. Tell me honestly, is Rory protecting golf or protecting the version he knows? Subscribe if you want. Facts beneath the noise first. Now let us examine what Rolapp rejected. The answer begins with what never happened. Rory did not enter Brian Rolapp's office carrying a list of conditions. He did not threaten to leave the PGA Tour. No camera captured an executive dismissing him across a conference table. There was no verified room containing 49 furious players. The rejection happened in public through two different visions of what professional golf should become. Rory's vision begins with history. Rolapp's vision begins with structure. That distinction matters because both men can claim they are protecting the same organization while pulling it in different directions. Rory looks at the Canadian Open and sees a championship older than the modern PGA Tour. Rolapp looks at the entire calendar and sees a product that has become difficult for casual fans to follow. Rory wants important tournaments judged by more than purse size. Rolapp wants every event to occupy a clear place inside a competitive system. Neither position appeared from nowhere. Rory earned the right to speak loudly during the battle with LIV Golf. When other stars avoided uncomfortable questions, he repeatedly defended the PGA Tour. He became its unofficial public voice during a conflict involving Saudi money, player defections, and enormous guaranteed contracts. That role placed him in press conferences where every answer became another headline. His loyalty also exposed him when the tour entered a framework agreement with Saudi Arabia's public investment fund without preparing its players. The experience changed him. Rory eventually stepped away from the policy board and reduced his involvement in tour politics. Golf had already given him wealth, major championships, and worldwide recognition. Nike supplied the image, TaylorMade filled the bag, Omega reinforced the status. Those partnerships made him one of the commercial stars around whom elite golf was being rebuilt. Yet that celebrity did not protect him from feeling used when decisions were made above the players. Rolapp arrived with a different history. He had spent years helping the NFL turn complicated competition into valuable television. His appointment suggested that the PGA Tour wanted more than a traditional golf administrator. It wanted an executive capable of making the schedule easier to understand, placing leading players together more often, and creating events that media partners could sell. That made Rolapp the hungry challenger in this conflict. He was not challenging Rory's golf record. He was challenging the system Rory had spent years defending. The proposed solution contained two connected series. The championship series would become the premium level, offering major purses, stronger fields, and clearer access for the best performers. The Challenger Series would provide another route through which players could compete for promotion. Relegation would create consequences at the bottom of the elite standings. Promotion would give successful players a visible path upward. On paper, it sounded clean. Then Rory chose 6 words that damaged the entire presentation. Track 2 is a glorified Corn Ferry event. That phrase worked because it removed every corporate layer surrounding the proposal. Fans did not need a diagram explaining membership, eligibility, or seasonal points. They understood Rory's accusation immediately. One circuit would receive the stars, television attention, and enormous purses. The other risked being viewed as the place where everybody else had been sent. The Canadian Open turned that fear into something tangible. Rory was not discussing an anonymous tournament created for the new schedule. He was talking about a national championship with history, identity, and supporters who cared about more than its position in a commercial hierarchy. If that event entered the Challenger Series, its title could remain unchanged, while its public meaning changed completely. The problem extended beyond Rory. A sponsor assigned to the lower series could reasonably question whether its investment would still deliver the same attention. Tournament organizers could wonder whether spectators would buy tickets without leading players. Broadcasters might treat those weeks as secondary programming. Once audiences accepted that one series mattered more, the distinction could become impossible to reverse. That was the danger hidden inside Rory's insult. The clip moved quickly through golf media. Short videos removed the technical explanation and preserved the sharpest sentence. Comment sections split almost immediately. Some fans said Rory had exposed an obvious attempt to rename the existing hierarchy. Others argued that players should earn their position instead of relying on status, exemptions, or reputation. Social media did not merely report the dispute, it changed its size. A complicated disagreement about tournament classification became a fight between tradition and corporate control. Rory was cast as the champion, defending golf's foundations. Rolapp became the executive willing to sacrifice familiar events for stronger television numbers. That framing was more dramatic than the policy itself, but it survived because Rolapp's response did not give Rory the protection he wanted. Rolapp confirmed that he had spoken with Rory. He then rejected the idea that the Challenger Series would resemble the Corn Ferry Tour. Recognizable courses would remain involved. Purses would be healthy. Established PGA Tour members would compete. Promotion would connect both levels, giving players a route into the championship series. His reasoning was practical. The tour already operated dozens of events for more than 200 players. The new structure would reorganize that ecosystem instead of abandoning it. Fans would understand the stakes. Partners would know what they were purchasing. Players would know what strong or weak performance could mean for their future. Rolapp also delivered the sentence that gave the title its force. The tour could not fulfill every preference held by every stakeholder. He did not mention a formal demand from Rory because none existed. Still, his position carried the unmistakable meaning of refusal. Historic reputation alone would not control the full calendar. One superstar, regardless of his loyalty or influence, could not dictate the model. Rolapp was willing to hear Rory without allowing Rory's warning to stop the overhaul. That settled the corporate argument. It did not settle the human one. The claim involving 49 furious players entered that gap. No reliable report produced those names. No signed letter surfaced. No official vote showed 49 members opposing Rolapp. No trustworthy account placed that exact number inside a confrontational meeting. The figure should therefore be treated as an internet claim rather than an established fact. Its lack of proof does not mean the wider concern was invented. Professional status determines almost everything for players outside the protected elite. It affects tournament access, sponsorship exposure, ranking opportunities, and career security. A golfer entering the Challenger Series might still compete for millions, but the label could influence how brands and fans perceive him. Relegation would not merely change his schedule, it could change his commercial value. That pressure explains why an unsupported number could travel so easily. Fans already knew that the redesign would create winners and losers. They did not need evidence of a secret revolt to imagine anxiety spreading through locker rooms. The structure itself supplied enough tension for the rumor to feel believable. Nick Taylor gave that tension a credible voice. For Taylor, the Canadian Open is not simply another available start. He became permanently connected to it when he won his national championship in 2023, ending a long wait for a Canadian winner. His playoff putt created one of the tournament's defining modern moments. Canadian supporters did not remember the purse structure when that ball disappeared. They remembered a national player winning a national event before a home crowd. Under a strict two-series structure, a Canadian golfer competing at the championship level could potentially face uncertainty about entering a national open assigned to the Challenger schedule. Details can still evolve, but the possibility alone exposed the weakness Rory had identified. An event cannot easily call itself open, while important players connected to its country are prevented from entering because of their position in another series. Taylor's response remained measured. He said losing access would be a major disappointment. That was not a furious attack on Rolapp. It was more useful than anger because it showed the practical consequence without requiring theatrical language. Rory supplied the warning. Taylor supplied the person who could be hurt by it. Scottie Scheffler represented the other side. His support for larger, stronger fields reflected the competitive appeal of Rolapp's plan. Scheffler's identity has never depended on public political battles. His authority comes from quiet dominance and results. When he says competition could improve, the argument deserves attention because he is describing the environment in which he performs better than almost everyone else. Scheffler saw stronger tournaments becoming harder to win. Fans would receive clearer fields. Cuts would remain meaningful. Players could no longer assume that reputation guaranteed permanent comfort. His support complicated any claim that Rolapp had simply turned the membership against him. This was not 49 players standing on one side. It was a membership facing different consequences. Elite stars could benefit from greater prize money and more valuable appearances. Players near the relegation line would experience considerably more pressure. Tournament organizers selected for the championship series would gain prestige. Events assigned to the Challenger Series could struggle against the perception that they had been demoted. Sponsors would have to decide whether history still justified investment without guaranteed access to the biggest names. The number 49 offered a clean rebellion. Reality offered a fragmented argument. Rolapp's model would retain roughly the same overall player population and event count. The championship series would feature fields around 120 players, traditional 72-hole competition, and a cut after 2 rounds. Its leading events would carry purses near $20 million. At least 90 players would retain their position, while successful challenger competitors could earn promotion. 2 victories within the lower series could create an immediate route upward. Those details weaken the claim that Rolapp planned to close professional golf completely. Merit remained central to the proposal. Movement between both levels would continue. The system contained opportunity, but opportunity would no longer look equal from every position. Rory understood that distinction. His later response prevented the conflict from becoming a complete personal war. After the official announcement, he described the overhaul as a positive step for professional golf. He welcomed its emphasis on meritocracy and expressed optimism about the future. That endorsement did not erase his earlier criticism. It clarified it. Rory was not demanding that Rolapp abandon the full project. He wanted leadership to recognize that certain tournaments carried cultural value that could not be measured through purse size alone. His real demand concerned nuance. National Opens occupy a different place from ordinary sponsored events. Their importance comes from history, geography, and access. Rory later argued that closing such fields too tightly could damage their identity. He pointed toward the Scottish Open as a possible blueprint because cooperation between tours had strengthened its position before the Open Championship. A similar approach could potentially protect the Canadian Open around the U.S. Open schedule. That was not resistance to progress. It was an attempt to prevent progress from flattening everything it touched. Rolapp still had reasons to resist special treatment. Every exception could make the simple structure more complicated. If one national open received protection, other tournaments could demand similar status. Sponsors with long relationships might argue that their events also carried history. Players would lobby for access based on hometown links, previous victories, or commercial importance. A model designed for clarity could quickly collect the same exemptions that made the previous tour difficult to explain. This is where the hero and villain framing becomes uncomfortable. Rory appears heroic when he protects events that cannot protect themselves. His history with the tour gives his warning emotional weight. He knows how quickly institutions can ask players for loyalty before making decisions without them. Hunger and heartbreak still guide him. Even after achieving enormous success, he remains sensitive to what golf could lose while chasing something larger. Rolapp appears villainous when commercial language replaces emotional value. His refusal sounds cold because spreadsheets cannot explain why Canadians cared about Taylor's winning putt. Yet he was hired to make decisions that previous leadership delayed. A system cannot become clearer if every powerful voice receives a private exception. Their confrontation was therefore real, even without the meeting imagined by the title. Rolapp rejected Rory's description. He refused to promise that every historic event would receive its preferred position. Rory challenged a structure he later supported because he believed one part could create lasting damage. Social media converted those differences into a revolt and supplied an exact number that reporting never verified. The gradual truth does not weaken the story. It reveals why the disagreement matters. 49 angry players would create a dramatic day. A permanent system deciding which tournaments receive relevance could reshape decades. One argument ends when tempers settle. Structural change continues after the cameras leave. The final question is not whether Rory defeated Rolapp or whether Rolapp silenced Rory. It is whether the PGA Tour can create a premium competition without teaching viewers to ignore everything beneath it. If the Challenger Series becomes respected, Rolapp's response will look justified. If historic tournaments lose sponsors, stars, and public attention, Rory's 6-word warning will become the line everyone remembers. Rolapp has approved the direction. Rory has marked the danger. Players now have to live inside whatever follows. Tell me where you stand. Is Rolapp finally building the competitive PGA Tour that golf needs? Or is Rory seeing a cultural cost that executives have underestimated? Share your view below, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us as the next details reveal which man understood the future first.